Hello, everybody. So, I made a decision on who to talk about next because even though this particular artist, Marilyn Manson, did not become more prevalent in my life until later in my timeline, my personal timeline, I still got into his music a bit more seriously around this point, but it really took off further down the road. But that's why I wasn't really sure if I should cover the next band that I was like all in at the time, or to include this here because this is kind of where it really starts in a more serious way. Because prior to middle school, I had heard a couple of Manson tracks, definitely Dope Show because it was on the radio and stuff, but also a couple other ones. And when I was in middle school, Eat Me, Drink Me was released, and I'll talk about that more when we get to that one. But yeah, so in middle school, after I had gotten into Rob Zombie and Rammstein, I also lightly got into Marilyn Manson. Like I said, later down the road, became much more involved with the music. But so anyway, we of course have to start at the beginning of the discography because that is the format I have chosen. And we're taking a look at Portrait of an American Family, which is the 1994 Marilyn Manson debut album. And I am fully aware, by the way, that there is music from before this, recorded under the Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids name, but that stuff isn't included with this, so you know, I'm not listening to that for this project, but I thought I'd mention it, and also that some of those songs are pretty damn good. It's a shame that they're not available on streaming, but anyway. So, Portrait of an American Family. Okay, so I'm going to quickly define once again what a perfect album is for my purposes. When I say the phrase perfect album, this is what I mean. A perfect album is where I like every single song on the album. And I say song and not track. I may have said track in the past, but what I mean is song, right? Because if there's like little interludes or things that aren't music or whatever, I don't count those. But this is a perfect album for me. In that everything that is a song I like. And it's all on my Spotify liked list. The reason I specified that it's songs that I'm talking about when I say that, this one starts off with something that isn't a song to set the tone or to like draw you into the music that follows, but it's not a song itself. However, everything that is a song, really good. Really like this album. It's fun to listen to, and also it's a little surprising that it's actually an hour long. It's probably a little shorter than an hour because the last track, Misery Machine, it has like some silence on it, and then it ends with like a little thing at the end. So, a couple of minutes of that isn't really the music anymore, but still pretty close to an hour for this album. And for me, it flies by really fast. Like when I just decide to listen to the whole thing, which I've done many times. Some of these albums will find as I talk about them are albums that I've often listened to in their entirety. Whereas with a lot of when I was talking about the Kiss albums, most of those I knew out of context of their albums, like the songs that I enjoy from Kiss. And I don't usually sit down and listen to a Kiss album. I just listen to the songs that I like. But this is like an album where that's not really the case, and where I've listened to this tons of times just because. I do really enjoy many of the songs. So picking a top three was a little tricky because there's songs where I wanted to put them in the top three, but there's only three, so some things have to be left behind and sacrificed. But I mean, that's a better problem to have than not being able to think of three because you don't like the album. So Anyway, I guess we'll talk about my top three. My number three choice for Portrait is going to be Snake Eyes and Sissies. It's a fun song, and I also have a little personal note on it where it's funny because my mom doesn't really listen to like this type of music on her own, but like when I've played it while we're like going somewhere or something in the car, she loves this song and she gets really into it. There's a part where the song kind of stops a little bit, and then there's like just the drums are kind of like punctuating the silence, and then it kicks back in, after like a little bit. My mom always gets hype for that part, and it's really funny. It's very endearing. But yeah, so that's my number three pick. My number two pick is Dope Hat, which very close competition for the number one spot, but I think Dope Hat is very solidly in my number two, because of how much I like my number one choice, which is Lunchbox. I really love this song, and I think it's really good. I also want to point out this is a weird like special mention of a song that's not even on this album, but it is connected to this album because Lunchbox, being my favorite song off of this album, it did have a single release, which of course means Lunchbox is on it, and then it has like some remixes, and then there's a cover song, Down in the Park, which is a cover of a Two Boy Army song, Gary Newman's first band. Which I love that song. Down in the Park by Two Boy Army is one of my favorite songs, period. And Manson's cover of it is pretty damn good. And I just thought I'd mention it because it is related to this album without being on this album. So anyway, yeah, I think that's all I have to really say about Portrait. And also I need to fucking obviously drink some water or something. Jesus. But yeah, it's an awesome album. I really enjoy it. And I enjoy it very thoroughly. And I always love that feeling of like you listen to an album and you just like it, the whole thing, and you don't skip songs or anything. It's such a good feeling, and it's also sort of rare, at least for me, where like, it happens, but fucking not usually. Definitely not usually. So I'm happy with this one. I love this album, and I'm glad that it exists. So anyway, yeah, the next one that we're going to be talking about is, of course, Antichrist Superstar, which for some people that's where Marilyn Manson truly begins. And yeah, we'll have some things to say about that. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you for watching.